Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delight to have in the studio with us our good friend John Mittendorf. He is our local researcher and apologist, and we've been doing a series, all kinds of series. In fact, you've been getting emails from all over the world.
Yep.
You send me a copy of those once in a while.
Every once in a while. It's interesting. Hey, I'm a pastor in London, England, and could I have... And you know how they do that, Perry, is they're just going across Roku or the internet, because sometimes I'll get them 2 months after we did the program. And he says, hey, could I get your notes on so-and-so? And I'm thinking, gee, that was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So it goes to show that they're just going across the airwaves, and they happen to tune into YouTube, and all of a sudden, here's this program.
There it is. And these times together with John have been very productive. By the way, coming up a little bit later on in the program, we're going to give away the 7 Days of Creation, the Flood, and Dinosaurs. This is one of John's books that he has authored and published, and it's in ringling type binding, so this thing is fantastic. What a resource. So be listening towards the end of the program. We're going to be giving one of these away, and you're going to want this for your library. It's called 7 Days of Creation, the Flood, and Dinosaurs. Well, today we're taking on a subject that's kind of interesting.
Very.
Do we live in a disposable universe and on a disposable earth? And what's behind this? Why'd you select this?
Well, before I get into it, let me make just
well, yeah, you're speaking Saturday.
Yeah, a quick announcement that this coming Saturday, I'm speaking at the Valley-wide Saturday Christian Men's Breakfast, which is Hometown Buffet.
Right.
7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And we're speaking, I'm speaking on the sufficiency of the Genesis account in creation.
Okay.
But then we're going to have a question and answer period too. But we're limited to about 8 o'clock, because 8 o'clock people start coming in for breakfast, so we're out of there.
Right.
So 7, 8 o'clock, and then also this is one of the few times that they also invite the women to come with their husbands. Otherwise, it's just for men's only.
All right. So 7 o'clock Saturday morning at the Medford Hometown Buffet. John will be speaking there on the on Genesis.
Yep.
And guys, bring your wives. There you go. All right. So how did you select this topic?
Well, that's a good question, because I'm thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? And you know, the Lord just lays different things on your heart. And I thought, you know, you and I, for the past years, we've been doing this for probably 5 or 6 years now. It's amazing. Time flies when you're having fun. And by the way, you know, I was looking at a picture 5 years ago when we were doing this, and you look a lot better today than you did back then.
No,
actually, I think you're getting younger.
You know, I think you need to go to confession.
I've already been there.
Okay.
But at any rate, I thought, you know, you and I have covered a lot of topics. We've covered the flood, we've covered creation, you know, how God spoke it into existence by His Word, and we've covered a lot of aspects of that. But I thought, you know, there's also a section in the Bible. In fact, there's 23 verses in the Bible that talk about the end of this earth.
The end of the earth.
The end of the earth. Genesis talks about the beginning of the earth, which is where we're going to start today. And the earth was originally designed by God out of water for a very specific purpose. What was the purpose? So He could turn around and use the water for the flood to destroy the earth. Not eliminate it, destroy it. So in reality, what we're living in today, we take for granted. But it's totally different than what it was before the flood. Before the flood.
And at the end of the day...
At the end of the day...
We won't go there yet. All right, so let's take a look at this.
So anyway, so I thought, you know, it would be fascinating to talk about the end of the earth, because we spend a lot of time talking about the beginning of the earth. And so I thought, well, that'd just be an easy program, you know, not a problem. And then you get into 2 Peter, and then you get to the 3rd chapter of 2 Peter, and you go, whoa, wait a minute. This is really good stuff. And, you know, that was written 2,000 years ago, Peter, you know, on the inspiration of God. He talks about uniformitarianism, which basically is the foundation of evolution. In other words, everything that you see today happened in the past. The key to the past is the present. Well, is that true? No, it's not true. Because science does not want to admit that there was ever a flood. According to them, everything is the same. Nothing's really ever changed. And so Peter covers uniformitarianism. He covers the creation of the world by water, by God, and why He did it that way, and for the purpose He did it that way. And the more I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, oh, Perry is not going to be happy. I'm looking at 3 or 4 months of stuff here, you know. I gotta slim this down.
Yeah.
And so then I'm doing some more study, and then he talks about the floods, the specifics of the flood. You're saying all this is in 2 Peter chapter 3? Yeah. And then I come across a verse to where God is talking to Noah after the flood, and as you'll recall, he repeats basically the same thing he told Adam and Eve before the flood. I want you to be in charge of the earth and to populate the earth. It's almost a direct quote, both of those, 1,600 years apart. But there's also a verse in there that, from my viewpoint, and I'm going to try to make a good case of it, and this will probably be next month, that minimizes or negates global warming, climate change.
Really?
Yes. Just as a precursor.
Based on?
Chapter 8 of Genesis. If people want to read ahead until next month, just read chapter 8 and see if you can pull the verse out.
Okay. Boy, you tweaked my curiosity.
Okay.
So Genesis 8.
Genesis 8.
All right.
I won't give you the verse. Anyway, then you continue on, and then Peter launches into the end of the earth and universe in detail. And he talks about how the earth and the universe is going to end in a roar and in fire. But when you do a Greek word study, he talks about how God is going to do that.
Man?
No.
Okay, there you go.
Because who's only capable of destroying the universe and the earth in a split second?
Well, only God can
Only
do
God.
that.
He created it. It's His.
Yeah.
He can create it. He can destroy it. So we know from 2 Peter that the end of the universe and the earth is going to come with a roar, and it's going to be done by fire. Peter's very explicit on that. But when you do a Greek word study, you can pull out of that how God is going to do that. In other words, what tool is He going to use to accomplish that?
Wow. Okay.
Now, one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. I know you're ready to go, but hang on.
Okay.
With all of that being said, as Christians, how then, and this is how Peter finishes this part that we're going to take, how then are we as Christians supposed to live? If we know that we are not really we're an inhabitant of this world, but do we really belong to this world as a Christian?
No,
No, we don't.
Citizens of two worlds. Really.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're looking towards the future. So that being the case, then, if we know that the earth has a limited lifespan, if it's disposable, if God is going to come back and if He's going to destroy it, Revelation 21, John says, and I saw a new heavens and a new earth. How then are we supposed to live?
Well, let me put another question on there. Okay. How then are we to treat the earth?
And how then are we to treat the earth?
Yeah.
Is exactly right.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets back to the global warming, climate change debate and the Dominion mandate, which
let me say to our viewers and listeners here, these notes will be available, and all the notes that John has offered here and all the studies that we've done are at hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. You can go there and ask for the notes on anything that we've done and on these. But I would suggest before you order these, just wait till we're done with this
yeah,
study.
let's make these available next month.
Yeah.
I'm already up to 22, 23 pages and we're not done yet. So we might have to bind this and make it a book. I don't know. So.
May have to. All right, good stuff. All right, let's do a couple quick definitions before I take a break.
Okay, what do you want to define?
Disposable.
Disposable means it has a limited lifespan. In other words, it's only good for X amount of period of time. A car junkyard is a classic example. When you drive by, when you look at the junkyard, yeah, every car in there had a certain life. And this earth and this universe is no different. It has a limited lifespan that one day in the future, God is going to destroy it and do it over again and create the new heavens and the new earth.
We live in a disposable culture. You
Yep.
can't get anything fixed anymore. You throw it away and buy a new one.
Exactly right.
You know.
And the universe and the earth is no different. They're disposable, and God
Would
created.
Would species be a part of that?
They're going to be destroyed with the earth. Is exactly right.
But
Did you know that we lose a species that goes out of existence, about one every day.
Okay, so that's God's design?
In my opinion, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing is the same. And actually, that overturns uniformitarianism. Uniformitarianism, as I said, science, which is the foundation of one of the foundations of evolution, believes that everything is the same, nothing changed. The present is the key to the past. Well, no. Things have changed. Yeah. The Earth is not the same today as it was 2,000 years ago.
Okay, we'll get into this when we get back. Again, hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com is the website to go to have, or excuse me, it's the email address for you to have John send you notes on anything that we've done. And don't forget, coming up towards the end of our time together, John is offering his book, 7 Days of Creation, The Flood and Dinosaurs, a fascinating workbook. We'll be giving that away coming up shortly. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, welcome back, and with us is our good friend John Mittendorf, researcher and apologist, and we're dealing with do we live in a disposable universe and on a disposable earth? And we're going to get into that, but I also want to remind you, coming up at the end of the program, we're going to give away, John is author of this book. This is a terrific resource called 7 Days of Creation, The Flood and Dinosaurs. You'll find this to be really remarkable. For you homeschoolers, got to have this book. By the way, if they wanted to order one of these, buy one of these, they go to just email you?
Yes, hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com, and then I can have some more printed up and send them out.
Okay, check that out. All right, let's get into this.
Okay, disposable universe, disposable Earth. Basically, we're talking about, does it have a limited lifespan? Well, of course it does. You know, nothing lasts forever. Only God is the only thing that's going to last forever. But let me talk about science just for a second, and then let's spend the rest of the time talking about the biblical perspective. And even science, well, science agrees and disagrees about a limited lifespan. Uniformitarianism in science believes that really, you know, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old and the universe is about 13 billion years old. So it's easy to believe, well, things are going to continue on in the future as they have in the past. And that's the uniformitarian viewpoint. But then the more, I'd say, hard scientists go, no, wait a minute. The sun is only going to last so long, and when the hydrogen in the core of the sun burns out, then the sun is going to go cold and the Earth is, the universe is going to have what they call a cold death. And that's true. And that's true. But there's also, and I'm going to ask you a question, I'm kind of leading you down a primrose path here. Back to climate change, global warming for a second. Mm-hmm. They also believe that the Earth has a limited lifespan to a large degree. Now you might want to say, okay, now why do the global warming people, why are they so focused on global warming and man destroying the Earth? And there's a couple of reasons behind that. You can get into the argument of, well, they don't like big business, they don't like industry, and they like power, they like to tell you what kind of car to drive. Okay, that's a whole other subject. But there's one more reason I think you can say why there's such an emphasis on climate change and global warming. From your perspective, what would you say that is?
Well, their only hope to a heaven is this earth.
Right.
So they want to internalize the earth.
Okay.
Even though they don't believe it'll live eternally, but
right.
They want to internalize the earth. I mean, it's man being man with no hope.
Okay. To go along with that, and you're very, very close, that if you are an evolutionist, you believe that the Earth and the universe happened by chance. It's hanging by a thin thread. If all of this came from the Big Bang, which you really can't explain, and then you got a couple chemicals coming together in the prebiotic ocean, blah, blah, blah. All this is accidental. Isn't it easy to assume that it could just as easily reverse and go the other way?
You know, that's a great point. So their hopes are on a thread.
Their hopes are on a thread. Therefore, it's man's responsibility to protect this earth as long as we can, to make it last as long as we can.
I think there's a thin line here because there is a stewardship.
There is a stewardship, is exactly right.
Element to all of this.
Yep.
Okay.
But to leave that then, and we're going to be covering that, some of that next month. And by the way, we're going to be doing this October 19th of next month. Let me spend the rest of the time on the biblical perspective because it's a little bit different. In fact, it's totally contrary to basically science. And I mentioned when we started the program this morning that in the Bible there's 23 verses that talk about the end of the earth. In other words, it's a disposable earth. None of them are specific except one, which is 2 Peter, and I'll get to that in a minute. But let me give you just a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. 2 Peter 3:7. But the heavens and the earth, which are now preserved by the same word, that's God, are reserved for fire until the day of judgment and perdition, that's hell, of ungodly men. Old Testament, Isaiah 51:6. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath, for the heavens will vanish away like smoke. The earth will wear out like a garment, and those who dwell in it will die in like manner, and it continues on. So the Bible is very clear that we're living on a disposable earth. In other words, it's not going to last forever, that it's going to disappear, and God's going to do it. Okay?
I think what's so interesting for the heavens will vanish away like smoke. The earth will wear out like a garment.
Like a garment.
And those who dwell in it will die in like
manner. Is exactly right. So it goes back to the same question. Are we currently living on a disposable earth? And the answer is that from a biblical perspective, absolutely yes. Actually, from a scientific perspective, absolutely yes. If you want to take a scientific perspective, when the sun burns out of hydrogen, the universe is, the Milky Way, our galaxy, is through, because then it suffers a cold death. So then what I want to do is then for this program, and the one next month also, is focus on 2 Peter chapter 3 and what that says. And I want to pull out just a couple of nuggets and cruise along and see if any of this rings a bell to you, considering that Peter wrote this 2,000 years ago. Okay? Here we go. 2 Peter 3, verses 3 through 6. And I'll read 3 and 4. Knowing this first, that scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lusts. Ring a bell there?
Yeah.
Okay. And saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. That is uniformitarianism. And what he's saying is the scoffers today are saying, so where's Christ? By 2,000 years? I haven't seen him. He's not coming again. And besides that, all things continue today as they did 2,000 years ago. So what's the problem? So as I said, this is Peter writing this 2,000 years ago. It's amazing what he covers when you go into the specifics of it.
But the precursor there is he's talking about scoffers.
Exactly right, yeah.
Okay.
And then also this walking according to their own lusts out of that section. Basically what he's talking about is people who want a philosophy that fits their conducts and their beliefs. And we've talked before about that, about Romans 1, 21 through 32. When Romans goes through the various steps of a nation before it reaches a reprobate mind. By the way, every once in a while you come across a stunning statement, and you know we've got a lot of great pastors in this country. And I came across a statement here a couple of weeks ago, and this one has gone viral. John MacArthur did a great sermon on We Shall Not Bow. I would recommend everybody listening and watching this program either go to the internet, just type in John MacArthur, We Shall Not Bow, and on the internet you can watch the entire thing or get a CD of it. But he makes a statement. He said, have we reached the period of time in this country, United States of America, where we are either ready to step into a reprobate mind or we are in a period of a reprobate mind? And then he makes this statement. He said, when you look at what the Supreme Court has done recently, first of all, we had abortion, and Brian Platt has been excellent on this. You know, how many millions of people, of babies, have been killed because of that? That was the Supreme Court. Then recently they legalized
same-sex marriage.
Same-sex marriage, homosexuality. And he made this statement. He said, there isn't a Supreme Court justice that is not aware of the biblical perspective and scriptural account of what marriage is and what homosexuality is, and yet they overturned it and made it legal. Yeah. Therefore, have we entered a state of a reprobate mind in this country?
Well, most people would say, yes, we are there. Scripture talks about basically turning righteousness and making it unrighteous, and taking unrighteousness and making it righteous. And that's what we're doing. Right has become wrong, wrong has become right.
What really stunned me about that statement was he said, every one of those Supreme Court's justices know what the Bible says, and yet they did what? Turned it over.
They did it anyway.
They did it anyway.
So they are walking according to their own lusts.
They're walking according to their own lusts, and they have a reprobate mind. In other words, they're not capable of discerning between right and wrong.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, really.
You wonder if this, well, I don't want, that's another discussion. I'm sorry. I could take off on this stuff, but I won't right now.
Go for it.
No.
Then I'll ask some dumb questions, right?
No, I'll ask the dumb questions.
No, okay. Here we go. So, let's go to verses 5 and 6 in 2 Peter.
All right.
For this they willfully forget that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water and in water, by which the world that then existed, prior to the flood, perished, being flooded with water. And basically what that verse is talking about, those two verses, verses 5 and 6, is they're beginning a detailed scriptural narrative of the original disposable earth that was created for destruction by God, and it was created by water, out of water, for destruction.
Okay, is the flood here? Or is that the flood at the end of the world?
No, we're getting to that here, just a couple more verses. Peter's going to get into that too.
Okay.
What he's doing is he's going to lay in the framework.
All right, I got to take a break here. Again, let me just say that these notes will be available. I would suggest you wait until we do the second show on this and get them all. It's called Do We Live in a Disposable Universe and on a Disposable Earth? And any of the things that John has done with us in the past, you can email him at hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. And if you're on the Dove website or on Roku, you can see some of the past shows that we've done together, and then email him at hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com and request the notes. And coming up in just a few minutes, I'm going to give away this book that John has authored. It's a workbook. It's in a ring binder. It's really terrific, especially if you're a homeschooler. 7 Days of Creation, the Flood, and Dinosaurs. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and John Mittendorf with us today, a researcher and apologist. We're dealing with an incredible, fascinating. I thought, where's he going to go with this? Now I'm going, wow. Do we live in a disposable universe and on a disposable earth? The short answer is yes.
Yes.
And the explanation of that's going to take a couple of sessions of where we are. But it's clear that there's a new earth and a new heaven
Coming.
Mm-hmm. So that suggests the old one goes away.
Yes.
So what does that mean to us? And what is our how thou shall we live, or how then now shall we live?
Right.
And
what's our focus then?
And what's our focus? And what's our stewardship responsibility? So pick it up.
Okay, let's go back to verse 5 and 6. This is out of 2 Peter again. For they willfully forget. My definition of that is purposeful ignorance.
Because they willfully
forget that by the word of God the heavens were old, and the earth standing out of water and into water, by which the world that then existed perished, being flooded with water. That's the flood. And I put that in there, and I detail this in the notes, because basically when I say purposeful ignorance, I watched a program on History Channel, this was last year, and the program was on Noah's flood. And according to the History Channel, there never was a global flood, in spite of the fact that 240 civilizations around the world have written accounts of a global flood. And according to them, there was just a local flood in the Mesopotamian Valley, according to them. And then they had this geologist stand there with the Grand Canyon as a background.
And he denied it still?
And they asked him, so, what's your opinion on a global flood? And this is exactly what he said, and I'll never forget it. There is no visible evidence on this planet of a global flood.
With the Grand Canyon in his background?
With the Grand Canyon in the background, which is probably one of the best examples of a global flood on this planet. And so when you go back to this verse, 2,000 years old, for this they willfully forget that by the word of God the heavens were of old, the earth standing out of water, by which the world then existed, perished, being flooded with water, purposeful ignorance. It never happened. I don't believe it. Forget it. Let's move on with evolution, and let's move on with an ideology that allows me to do what I want to do and have no accountability to anybody.
Isn't that the bottom line?
That's the bottom line.
So you got to turn earth into heaven because you don't believe in a hereafter heaven.
Exactly.
Right.
In fact, you and I did a program on Romans 1. If you go back to Romans 1, 20 through 22, you see the same thing, willful ignorance. For since the creation of the worlds, and this is Romans, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Although, and here's the key phrase, although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened.
You can see the division. Is this a wheat and tares moment that we are in now in our culture? Is this a separating of the sheep and the goats? We're seeing a plastic church emerge, so to speak.
Right.
And so it seems to me that they know God, but they do not glorify him. They don't surrender to him as supreme. They're actually trying to turn him into, I don't know, a buddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's easy believism.
Yeah,
and also, a lot of churches are not preaching hell. In fact, Christ talked more about hell than he talked about salvation in the Bible. That there is a judgment coming.
Okay, so, okay, well,
okay,
we can get on theology later. Let's stick with this.
Okay, just real quick, because in our last program I mentioned this just briefly, and I had some email questions on what do you mean by that. And I just said that this geologist stood there and said there is no visible evidence on this planet of a global flood. Untrue. There's 6 of them. And let me just, for a couple minutes, I'll go over them just real quick.
Okay.
For a detailed explanation, I get the notes and I go over that a lot more. Number 1, fossils of sea creatures high above sea level due to the ocean waters having flooded over the mountains. And there's fossils of sea creatures on Mount Everest, the Himalayas, the Andes, and so on. All the high mountains on this earth have fossils of marine animals. How'd they get there?
Yeah.
They had to be buried. Number 2, rapid burial of plants and animals. If you're going to have a fossil, you have to bury it very, very quickly and keep the oxygen away from it. And there's thousands and thousands of miles of fossil graveyards all over this planet. How'd they get there? Global flood. A global flood. Number 3, rapidly deposited sediment layers spread across vast areas. As an example, the inclined sloping layers within the Coconino sandstone of the Grand Canyon are testimony to 10,000 cubic miles of sand being deposited by huge water currents within a few days. How'd that happen? A global flood. Number 4, sediments transported long distances, and the sand, again, for the Coconino sandstone, the Grand Canyon, was eroded and transported from the northern portion of what is now the United States and Canada. They know which way the floodwaters went. They came from northern Canada across the United States, let me think for a second, and they came in a southeastern direction, like across the United States down towards Texas. How do they know that? They go into the rock layers and they look at what's called varves, V-A-R-V-E-S, and it's like ripples be like ripples in the seashore. And you can tell which way the water was going, and that's how they know that. That's number 4. Number 5, rapid or no erosion between strata. When you look at rock layers, if we had millions and millions of years of rock layers being built up, you would see large distances between specific rock layers. They don't. They're knife-edged, which means they were laid down very, very quickly and fast. How'd that happen? Global flood. Okay? Number 6. Many strata laid down in rapid succession. Rocks do not normally bend. They fracture, and I think people have seen pictures of granite that is horizontal, and then it turns and it goes vertical without fracturing. How did you do that? Well, the earth was covered in water for about a year, so that means all the rocks were inundated with water for a year. That means they softened. That means that when you had tectonic plate activity from the flood, as they were pushed, they could be easily bent because they were pliable. You can't bend hard granite today without it fracturing. So when you say, okay, and here's this geologist with the Grand Canyon, well, I don't see any evidence of it. It's all around you. But they refuse to believe it.
Yeah, willfully.
Willfully
Yeah.
refuse to believe it. Okay? Then the last part in that verse says, by the word of God the heavens were of old, and that means that God created the universe out of nothing and by the word of his mouth. In fact, John 1:3 says, all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. And I use this statement quite often in classes. And you go back to John 1:3, all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. And what that says, Perry, in one sentence, is that there is no room anywhere in biblical scripture for evolution, period. God did it. And he didn't use or need evolution to do it. Pretty simple.
Yeah, unless they question the author of that.
And they do. Because if you accept the author of that, then you also accept that he is your judge and you are accountable to him for the way that you live your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay?
All right.
How long do we have?
Couple more minutes
Couple more minutes?
before we take a break.
Okay, why don't we just real quickly, and I'm going to see if I can do this. Let's just go basically over the creation account, and I want to cover just the first 3 days and show how God set the earth up to be destroyed in the flood.
Okay.
And what did he use? Water. If you've ever read the creation account, you probably wondered, well, why did he start out with water? What's the big deal with water? I mean, the earth today is 70% water, 30% land. But originally, the earth was 100% water. Why did he do that? Because he was getting ready for the global flood.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Now, let's go to the creation account just for a quick review. And I'm going to Genesis.
Suggest he knew what Adam and Eve would do.
Right?
I mean, he is God. He'd know that,
Sure.
and he knew he'd have to judge the world through a flood.
Let's take it back before the break. Let's take it back. I was thinking about this the other day. Let's take it a couple steps back before that. Back when heaven, and I'm going to say everything was good, Satan rebelled and took 1/3 of his angels with him out of heaven. Okay? Did God, prior to creating the angels and creating Lucifer, Satan, know that Satan and 1/3 of the angels were going to rebel? He was going to expel them from heaven, and then when he created the earth, that Satan was going to tempt Adam and Eve. They were going to fall. He was going to have to curse the universe and the earth, and ultimately send his son to die on the cross to save us from our sins. Did he know all of that before he ever opened the first chapter of that book?
I think the question answers itself, because if he made the earth out of water in preparation of the flood, then he had to know that Satan was going to rebel.
Exactly.
And what the consequences of that would be to man.
Okay. Now, this is a question we won't answer today. Maybe we'll answer it next month. If he knew that, and he did, he's God, right? Then why did he go ahead and do it?
Well, why did he stop it early in the...
Or why did he stop it early in the process?
Well, forgive me for... Today is National Ask Dumb Question
Dumb Question Day, yeah, right, yep.
It would appear to me then there would never be a Jesus.
Okay. You're doing good. Keep going.
Okay, and therefore there wouldn't never be a need for a redemption or a redeemer.
Exactly right, and he would not have an opportunity to universally manifest himself and display his redemptive process and glory
Yeah.
to the universe. In fact, the Bible says the angels stand in awe of his mercy and his redemptive power.
Which brings in Romans 8, all things work together, even the bad,
Even the bad.
to bring
Right.
about the good.
But that's a great question. Why did God originally create all of this when he knew we were going to mess it up? He was going to have to come back and straighten it out. And that's why, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, that when God decides it's time and he destroys this universe and this earth, he gets rid of the cursed universe and the cursed earth, which was cursed when Adam and Eve sinned, right? Ever since then, everything has been running downhill, okay? He gets rid of everything and starts it over again with a new heaven and a new earth.
Sounds good to me. I just hope there's not a new devil.
He's going to be in a very warm place.
Yeah, very warm place. Yeah, okay. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. And coming up at the end of the next segment, we're going to give away John's book, 7 Days of Creation, the Flood, and Dinosaurs. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back. We're going to try to put a cap on at least this part of this discussion. John Mittendorf's with us. He is a surrogate speaker for Answers in Genesis. By the way, he's speaking this Saturday morning at the Valleywide Men's Prayer Breakfast, or gathering, I should say, at the Medford Hometown
Buffet.
7 o'clock. And this is one of the few times that the men are encouraged to bring their wives, and John will be lecturing on Genesis. So that's coming up 7 o'clock, Hometown Buffet in Medford. In the meantime, we're dealing with the topic, do we live in a disposable universe and on a disposable earth? And he's slowly answering the question is yes, but giving the reasoning behind all of this. And I think before we can understand the end, we better understand the beginning.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly right, Perry, right. Let's start off with just a quick creation review, and let's start off with Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. Let me bring up a graphic. Here we go, right here. And darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And what this means is the earth was without form and void. And this is the way that I had it drawn, that if you take a glass of water and pour it on the top of this table, it doesn't have anything to contain it. So it's going to be formless and void. In other words, it doesn't have any boundaries. So what this says is the earth originally was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. Okay, and I think that's fairly easy to understand. Verse 3, then God said, and the key fact is, let me go back, is God is originally starting out with the creation account with what primary ingredient?
Water.
Water, okay? Because he could have used anything he wanted to. He could have started out with land, but he didn't. He started out with water for a reason. Then God said, let there be light. This is verse 3. And there was light, and God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So evening and the morning was the first day. And I don't really know how to draw that, but this is the way that I had it drawn, is basically you have darkness on the left, and on the right you have light. But he didn't create the light bearers until day 4. So you say, okay, then where did this intrinsic light come from? Well, if you go to the heavenly city in Revelation, who provides the light for the heavenly city?
Jesus does.
Jesus, God does,
Well, yeah.
right? So, he's hovering over the face of the deep, the waters. He creates light, his light, which he separates light from the darkness. And then, of course, the verse says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning was the first day. What that means is the earth is now rotating because you have an evening and a morning and a first day. And if you go into the physics of this, a lot of people feel that when God introduced light, he also introduced the light spectrum, which includes ultraviolet rays. It also includes gravity. Once you introduce gravity into this formless mass, the atoms would have probably clung together, and then you wind up with a circular ball. Of course, God is there massaging his creation, so to speak. Anyway.
Fascinating.
Okay, you with me so far?
Yeah, so far.
Okay. Let's see. Darkness he called night, so the evening and the morning were the first day. And it's also interesting that if you go to Proverbs 8:27, Isaiah 40:22, it talks about the earth being a circle drawn by a compass, which means circular, rotating mass. Okay? Now let's go to verse 6. Then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Now this one's debatable. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So evening and morning were the second day. And let me go to the next graphic, which is this one right here. And the reason why this is debatable, Perry, is because it says very clearly that he, and I'll read it again, that let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So we have the original water of the earth, but he says he divided the waters. So there's waters above the earth. And the debate is, well, how far above the earth? And it doesn't say. And that's why the vapor canopy is a very popular theory. There was a vapor canopy at that time which shielded the ultraviolet rays of the sun, and that's one reason why there was long life then, and there was a lot of plant life.
That's why they're looking for water on Mars?
Water on, yeah. If they find water on Mars, so what?
Yeah.
Do you still have life? No. No. So, besides that, give it about 5 or 6 years, and you might see a retraction. Oh, we thought it was water, but it wasn't water. Anyway, this is the way that I perceive it, is that you have light, you have darkness, you have a circular mass of water, and you have water above the earth. And by the way,
well, let me ask you this then.
Okay.
If the firmament is...
The firmament is the heavens. In other words, is the space between earth and the water.
Okay,
upper water.
So are those layers of atmosphere?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. In other words, the heavens would be where the birds are, and so on.
Okay.
And what's fascinating, that if you do some homework on this, Perry, that the early Hebrews referred to the sky, and you can find this in Job 37:18, Daniel 12:3, and Ezekiel 1:22. They referred to the sky as the molten mirror or shiny.
So it had a reflection to it, huh?
Now, where would you get a molten mirror shiny from? Not from clouds. From frozen ice crystals above. You would have. I'm not saying it was there. I'm just saying that would help to explain that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now,
you got to go to verse 9?
Yeah, let's go to verse 9. And let me bring up the graphic for that right here.
All right.
And right off the bat, you'll probably see there is one landmass, and I'll show you why. Verse 9. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place. And notice waters are plural. And let the dry land, which is singular. Singular.
Oh, singular.
Singular. Appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together, let me go back to earth, singular.
Okay.
And the gathering together of the waters he called seas, which is plural.
Okay.
And God saw that it was good. And when I had this drawn, I said, okay, this is what I'm looking for. So for the people that are watching, what you have is a circular ball of water, that in that you have a singular dry land. Above that, you have water. That's the end of day 3. In the first 3 days, God has done 2 things. Number 1, he has taken 3 days to prepare the earth for life. Days 4, 5, 6, plants, birds, animals, man.
And man.
He has also set the earth up with water below and water above for the coming global flood, destruction of the earth. Not elimination, destruction of the earth.
Interesting.
So when mankind walked the earth, did they know that they were walking on a ticking time bomb? No. But that's the way God designed it, because 1,650 years later, from Adam and Eve to Noah, it's about 1,650 years. Of course, when mankind reached a point of sin that God says, that's it, I'm through, I'm going to destroy it and start over again, he then destroyed the earth with water. And of course, after that, we can get into this in a little bit more detail on October 19th. He says, I will never destroy the earth again by water, and to show you that as my covenant between you and me, I will put in the clouds a rainbow. However, he did not say, I will never destroy the earth again, because he is. But it will be a different methodology the second and the last time. By the way, fire is one of his favorite, shall we say, judgments.
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah, Ezekiel 38, the Gog-Magog war, fire. And then, of course, the end of not eternity, but the end of the universe and the earth, fire.
Fire represents purification, doesn't it?
Purification and finalization. Everything, if it gets hot enough, will melt.
Yeah.
Will melt. And basically turn to ashes and go away. So.
Yeah. All right, we got to give this away. We're out of time. Caller number 6 at 541-776-5368. We'll get this. Caller number 6, 541-776-5368. We'll get John's book entitled 7 Days of Creation, the Flood, and Dinosaurs. And by the way, don't forget a couple of things. John is speaking this Saturday at the men's breakfast, but the wives and the women are invited to come, and that'll be 7 o'clock at Hometown Buffet in Medford. So if you're in that area, check it out. And if you want to get these notes, go to hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. So I don't know what you got up your sleeve next week or next time.
Well, next month, October 19th, we're going to continue this, and I want to talk about, we are currently living in the third ecosystem.
Third ecosystem.
So the question is, what was the first and the second, and what's the fourth? We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about, does the Bible support or minimize global warming, climate change? And then we're going to do a little word study in 2 Peter chapter 3 on if God is going to destroy the universe. I'm going to say the cosmos. The cosmos is all inclusive. Planets, Earth included.
Yeah.
Is he going to destroy it? Yes. How? Fire. How is he going to do that? And I'm going to suggest that Peter's going to tell us how.
Okay, back to this circular thing just for a moment. You don't have got time to put it up there. So if the Earth was made out of water,
Yep.
then he formed it into a circle, then he put the land mass on there.
Right.
And you're saying there was a layer of water over the top of that.
Over the top of the earth, above the heavens.
Above the heavens. So it's possible that the flood, as fast as it was, not only came from the water below, but there could have been this marine air above, and the combination of the two could flood the earth in that short amount of time. But that layer is now not least within our telescope seeing range.
If you read the biblical account, which we'll talk about next month, of how the flood happened, the fountains of the deep broke forth first. Rain was second. So when you talk about, and we're going to talk about what that means, the continental rift and how the plates, how the earth actually split apart, you would have had a high degree of volcanic activity, and actually as the seawater would have gone down towards the core of the earth, which they figure is around 7,500 degrees.
Steam, and that put the water in the air.
Right up into the atmosphere, coming back as rain.
All right. Well, we do have a winner, Cheryl Dykes of Jacksonville. Congratulations, you are the winner of John's book. And by the way, you can communicate with John by going to hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. I would suggest on the study that we're doing, give it another chance when we get...
Wait till next month.
And then order them, because it's going to be quite extensive, very comprehensive. He makes us available to you totally free. Thank you, John, for doing that.
You bet. My pleasure, Perry.
This is fascinating. But I didn't know if I really wanted to study the end of the earth, but
Yes, you do.
I guess now I do.
Because what do you have to look forward to?
Yeah, a new heaven and a new earth.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And eternity with
Jesus. Yeah, great stuff. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.